This video is about social stories. It gives an overview of how social stories can be used to support someone with a learning disability to understand the world around them. First of all, what is a social story? A social story is a description of a particular situation, event, or activity that includes specific information about what to expect and why. They can be used as tools to help people explain reasoning, other people's perspectives, and what to expect from situations. Why is a social story useful when supporting someone with a learning disability? Autistic people and people with learning disabilities can experience context blindness. This is when someone struggles to recognise and apply context, especially when given general information. To understand the world around us, we pick up on essential bits of information subconsciously. For example, when you walk into a post office, you might see the line of people and therefore know you're going to have to wait. You know where you need to stand to wait in the queue based on where other people are standing. You can work out based on how many people in front of you, how long you might be there, and when you get to the front of the queue, you can predict what the interaction is going to be like. For example, what you're asking for and how loudly you have to speak. For an autistic person or a person with a learning disability, sometimes it is more difficult to predict what is going to happen, what an interaction is going to be like, and what is expected of them in certain situations and settings. This can result in increased feelings of anxiety. Therefore, a social story can be used to describe things that may be more obvious to a lot of people, but harder for people with difficulties in certain areas, including guessing how people might be feeling, linking bits of information together, for example, this happened, which made that person feel like this, understanding reasoning, such as why something has been recommended, and adapting and understanding when what they were expecting to happen changes. A social story should be made up of 3 sections: an introduction, middle, and conclusion. The introduction introduces the topic. The middle talks about the social predicament and provides guidance, and the conclusion summarises what has been said using consistent language. Throughout the social story, simple, concrete language should be used. Concrete words are words that are quite specific in their meaning and can conjure up a picture of what is being spoken about, for example, cat or banana. The opposite of concrete words are abstract words, words that can refer to a lot of different things like adjustable and pollution. The same words are used throughout. For example, if you say day service, don't call it day centre later on. They are very descriptive. They describe the context, where the situation occurs, who is there, what happens, and why. Events are described in the sequence in which they happen. Pictures are used to aid understanding. Pictures can aid understanding because they give us time to process what is being said, as they don't disappear like spoken words. They also tend to be more obvious in their meaning than words and are more memorable. Social stories use repetition to help make them predictable, simple, and memorable, and to keep the person's attention. Information is presented simply and consistently and is available for the person to refer back to with support if needed. For example, a social story might say, the security guard might ask to look in your bag. This is okay. That is their job. The security guard might ask you to take your shoes off. That is okay. That is their job. Information in the social story can also be linked to the person's previous experiences to help them understand. For example, lots of people worry when they start a new day service. This is natural because you don't know exactly what it will be like. You were worried when you started Blossom's day service. It didn't take long for you to get used to it and stop worrying. Social stories take away the need to read between the lines by being very descriptive and presenting information in a literal, concrete way. How should sentences in a social story be written? The majority of sentences in a social story should be descriptive. A descriptive sentence outlines in a factual way what is happening in the social situation. It describes who is there, exactly what is going to happen, where it's going to happen, and when it is going to happen. Details should be included that could be obvious to some people, but that others might miss. Descriptive sentences can also give perspective to a situation. They recognise how the person who the social story was written for feels, but also give fundamental information about what others are thinking and feeling, and what their motivations are. Coaching sentences can also be used in social stories, but won't always be needed. These are sentences that advise what is appropriate to do in situations. Coaching sentences can include phrases like, I will try to, people should, and identify what others will do to assist the person, like, if I lose my phone, Amy will help me find it again. These should be discussed and agreed with the person prior to being included in the social story. Here's an example of a social story. It includes pictures to aid understanding, it uses consistent language, and is repetitive. For example, it says, distracting noises, distracting things, distracting thoughts, distracting things to feel. It also explains perspectives. For example, it says some people find it easy to ignore distractions. And it's written in a non-directive way and therefore isn't just a list of rules. For people who might not like a story, this information can be adapted into other formats like newspaper articles and websites. The do's and don'ts of social stories. Do keep a positive and patient tone throughout. Use a social story to help explain changes. Use specific language. Add pictures to support understanding. And make social stories for different settings so the person can generalise the information to different contexts. Don't write a list of rules, it's not a rule book. Add your opinion or judgments even if you don't agree. Or make bossy statements. This can put pressure on the person and increase their anxiety if they cannot follow them exactly. Writing in first person or third person can help make sure the social story isn't just a list of instructions. It is really important that a social story is written in line with the person's keyword understanding level. This will ensure that they are able to understand everything that is being discussed in the social story. Keywords are the number of words that you have to be able to understand in order to understand the overall meaning of what is said. For example, the sentence, "Can you get your shoes on?" has one key word, which is shoes, as you only have to understand the word shoes to understand what is being asked of you. See the other sentences on the screen for examples of sentences at a 2 keyword level, a 3 keyword level, and a 4 keyword level. If you're not sure what someone's level of understanding is, refer to the speech and language therapy team for a communication assessment or communication support. Please see instructions at the end of this video of how to refer to our service. What to do with the social story. Difficulties with understanding and processing information are made worse when we are emotional. For example, it is much harder to put together a clear argument when we are very worked up, and equally difficult to really listen to what the other person is saying. Only look over the social stories with people when they are calm and able to take the information in. Keep the social story accessible to the person and revisit it to help them understand it. Speech and language therapists can assess if someone is likely to benefit from this approach and give support and advice if they would. However, social stories are most effective when used by the people closest to the person as a way of talking about situations as and when they come up. If someone with a learning disability living in Sheffield would benefit from this strategy, or from other communication assessment or advice, refer them to our team by calling 0114 2261 562. You can also contact us by email at cldtbusinesssupport@shsc.nhs.uk. Thank you for listening.